In this tutorial, we're going to explore different ways to view your scene and how to set up a basic environment before you begin a project. Let's start off with different viewport display types. Here in the 3D view in the top right corner, you'll find a 4-button menu that controls how objects are displayed. And each mode serves a specific purpose. So our default mode is the solid shaded viewport. It provides a rough representation of solid objects without complex lighting or textures. To the left, you can see we have a wireframe viewport. This displays only the edges of our objects. This is useful for seeing through geometry, to check spatial relationships, or in edit mode, we can select components like vertices, edges, or faces that are on the opposite side of our model or are obstructed by something else. Normally I wouldn't be able to select this vertex because it's behind the cube, but in edit mode I can or in wireframe view I can select it. So to the right we have material preview, which displays the colors and textures of our objects using simplified lighting. This mode uses some rendering shortcuts to look convincing, but it's not an accurate render. And then finally, we have an actual accurate rendered mode here. And I should note that for these tutorials, I'm going to render in cycles using the GPU. A rendered viewport is the most computationally intensive. It calculates actual light paths and reflections and shadows to show you how the final image will look. And you can switch between these display types using a pie menu that is opened with the Z key on the keyboard. And one thing you can do to speed yourself up even more is you can do a Z and gesture. So if I want a quick solid shaded viewport, Z and a swipe right will switch me very quickly to that solid shaded viewport. Z and a swipe down will switch me to a material shaded. Z and a swipe up is rendered, and Z and a swipe left is wireframe. Now let's talk about camera navigation. Everything that you render in Blender happens through the camera. You can jump into the camera's view by pressing numpad 0. And to position the camera effectively, you can use one of these three methods. You can either use your transform keys, move and rotate. So G will, if your camera is selected, G will load your cursor with it and allow you to move it. You can still constrain your axes, X, Y, and Z, just like any other object in Blender. Or you can rotate your camera as well, including in any axis. We also have walk mode. If you're familiar with video game navigation, this will be familiar to you as well. You hit Shift tilde on your keyboard, and that allows you to look around with your mouse and also use the W, S, A, and D keys to go forward, backward, left and right, and then the Q and E keys go down and up respectively. And I can use that to navigate around, and if I want to navigate more quickly I can hold down Shift while I press those keys and then click to confirm the position. Finally, in our sidebar, which we open with the N key, we can go to the View tab and we can click Lock Camera to View. And if I'm looking through my camera, whenever I rotate or pan my viewport, like just middle clicking to tumble my view, it will actually move my camera instead of taking me out of the camera and just tumbling my view without the camera view. So those are different ways to reposition the camera. Now, in our scene here, we obviously want to create something more than just a cube. So to build a scene, we start with primitives, which are just these basic geometric shapes like the cube. You can access the Add menu via either the top header or by pressing Shift A. So for these tutorials, I'll be pressing Shift A because it's so much faster. So Shift A gives me the list of primitives listed under mesh objects. So a plane, a cube, circle, all the way down to a monkey. I can add any of those to my scene at any time, and they will appear at the position of the 3D cursor. When we add a new object, let's delete our default cube here for a minute, and we'll add it back. Mesh, cube. I get an adjust menu down here. So if I twirl this menu down and expand it, then until I perform other transformations or manipulations on this cube, I can change its parameters while it's still new. So for instance, the default 2 meter cube, I can say, well, let's make that 3 meters. And I can align it to my view, or I can change its location. Different objects will have different options down there. Some, for instance, if I added a sphere, let's delete this cube. There's a UV sphere. Then I can control how many segments it has, how complex the object is. Until I perform another action, I can use this to change the initial attributes of my objects. You probably noticed that there's a monkey head in here. This is Suzanne. This is Blender's mascot, and it takes the place in Blender of the famous Utah teapot. So it's used as a test subject for complex shadows and reflections, if you need to see how things work in a more complex scene than just a cube or a sphere, for instance. So I like to add a floor. I think it's one of the fastest ways to make a scene feel believable because it provides a surface for objects to cast shadows. So I'm going to hit Shift A, and I'm going to add a plane. Now by default, all of Blender's primitives are 2 meters tall, and this plane is at the world origin. So if I want it to go exactly underneath my monkey head here, I can tap G to move, Z to move vertically, and then -1, enter, to move this primitive on in my 3D view. I moved it down exactly 1 meter, so it is exactly at the base of the chin of the monkey. I can also scale this object until it fills more of the background, and that will allow me to cast more dramatic shadows. So let's look at this in a rendered view and see what it looks like. And you can see, yeah, we've got a shadow here, and we have some reflected bounce light coming off of the floor, and it looks pretty nice. So once your objects and your floor are in place, switch to the rendered viewport like I have, and you can select your light object, which is this up here. We can move it around, and we can see how the shadows change in real time. By positioning one object in front of another relative to the light, we can create depth through overlapping shadows. So I'm going to put a, whoop, that was a plane. I meant to do a cube and I missed. I'm going to put a cube and shrink it down and stick it behind Suzanne's head here so that Suzanne's shadow falls on it just a little bit. And I think that's kind of a nice interaction. I hope this tutorial's been helpful. We'll see you in the next one.